don't talk about people anymore.
Uh-oh.
Welcome, everybody.
This can and will be used against you, Ted.
Happy Third Tuesday Mastermind. Eric is in Mexico and feeling it, right?
I'll be careful what I say so I don't get kicked off of all social media.
Oh, I know.
You would be so sad if you got kicked off social media. Would you even know if you got kicked off social media, Ted?
That'd be great, actually.
What? I don't have my Facebook?
Okay, the vaccine doesn't work. It's a big scam. That I'd do it.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness.
All right. That's
Okay.
awesome. I got our agenda pulled up here too, Paula.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, I've got it. Got it here. And we can get rolling with, gosh, there's so much to talk about. I kept adding to it, actually.
Why don't you get us started, Paula? Go for it.
Well, I think number one is how your culture will attract great employees or create higher turnover. I think we ought to talk about that one first. And
Yeah.
everybody pitch in. I know some people are on their phones, some people are mute, whatever. It would be really, really good to talk about that. And Ted, you're in the middle of hiring, and you wrote an excellent ad. Do you want to talk about that? Talk about some of the things we've been talking about the last couple of days about hiring.
Do you expect me to remember what the ad said, you mean?
No. No, I don't expect you to remember the ad. I'm just thinking about the concepts you were trying to get across in your ad that you were writing.
Well, we're describing a person that we want. We're describing an office culture. We're talking about working with a team and being appreciated. We could just sum it up and say, come to our office and work in a place that tries to do what Paula tells us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess today we decided to try it without naming the hourly rate and take that out of the equation, because really the person we want should be down their list of what their criteria are for taking a job. Obviously we have to be competitive, but if you just got people scanning ads to see what the hourly rates are, then it's probably not somebody that's going to stick anyway.
Yeah,
but again, we're not
agree.
We're not getting many responses no matter what we do.
Well, there's philosophy about putting the salary in, the compensation in the ad, because they start comparing, and if they don't know what they're comparing, what's that quote I have? Price or money is the number one comparison until value is perceived.
Yeah.
They've got to experience a difference in who you are before they can really use the dollars.
Yeah.
The perfect example of that, I've got an office in my town, and they'll pay like $27 an hour for an admin person, $26 for an RDA, like basic pay. And we get great employees for them at 20, that we rehire them in other offices at $22 an hour because nobody wants to work for that dentist. So that dentist is overpaying. And so then they they hate that culture, getting yelled at, being, embarrassed in front of the patient, basically.
Yeah.
And then they go, wait, okay, so it's worth $5 an hour less for me to work in a great place. That person knows they have to overpay just to keep employees, because they're like, well, they're not going to go anywhere else because look how much I'm paying. And you can literally feel the difference in culture. And so people will come and they'll do like a working interview or a day of shadowing, what have you, and they'll go, wow, this is amazing. I didn't even know dentistry could be like this.
I've had people leave for more money and come back.
Yeah, that's a great point too. What do you think it is about your culture, Ted, that what's tangible? What's a tangible thing? Culture is so intangible.
Yeah.
People go, what's my culture? What do you think about your culture that makes people love working there, even though you may not pay the most money, but it's competitive, but maybe not the most money?
We're very conscious about nobody ever is we never want to hear somebody say that's not my job. You know, over and over I say there's only one job here, and
All
that
of it.
job is to treat the patient, make them happy, and you know, you all share the job. Yeah, you all might have different roles at different times, but everybody is willing to, you know, pitch in when they have a chance. Um, and the other thing is, and I noticed this since I've left, because now, to be honest, I go to the office like once a month, and I walk in, and the place is humming. You know, people are walking around, they're happy, and they know what they're going to do. They know where they're going, and you hear people laughing and joking, and that's, I mean, that's what it is. So
Yeah.
I think it's important in an interview to bring them in when the office is running so they can sense that.
Yeah, that's a great point. What do you think? So it's the job is so culture. You have to communicate culture. That's what makes it tangible, right? And so the job is to make the patient happy. You said. Um, how do I know how to make the patient happy in your culture? How do you get that into the DNA of the people?
Well, I mean, you won't be surprised at this, but you know, the foundation of all of it is to develop the trust of the patient and to maintain it, and not to do anything to upset it or lose it. And I think, you know, that makes people happy.
So how do you get the team like? How do you get the team to buy into that, to know to do that? Like, what's the recipe for training your team to understand how to deliver? Like, you could put me in a Mickey Mouse costume. I'm going to be tall and goofy. I'm going to be the goof. I should be in a goofy costume, actually.
Yeah.
But how do they know how to behave once they might be in a costume, but they don't know how to behave as that character? So how does your team know how to behave to live out the culture?
Well, I think, you know, a new employee comes in and they're going to have a mentor. There's going to be somebody else in their position. They're going to get training. We're going to have, you know, daily huddles and weekly meetings and you know, quarterly, half day or all day meetings and all that kind of stuff. And that's always on the agenda, you know, to go back over, you know, what's the foundation of the practice. You have to not let them forget. And
So consistent and persistent communication of that thing, whatever your culture is, right?
yeah, so after they've been there 20 or 30 years, they catch on.
There you go.
That is part of our culture, that people stay a long time. And, you know, they stay because of culture, I suppose, but also becomes an important piece of it. So when we're advertising, we kind of slip it in there. Like one of the ads says, you know, this is to replace a 25-year employee that's retiring. And if I was looking for a job, that would, you know, perk my ears up.
That's exactly right. That's a
Wow,
good, that's
that's
a
great.
really good thing for them to see.
Yeah.
I think it's your verbal skills that you use building trust with a patient. I mean, you're you're famous for your verbal skills. I learned verbal skills from you. and and
Wish I could remember them.
of just the SWOT, asking patients what their goals are before you start
Yeah.
shoving a treatment plan in their face. That speaks volumes to team members.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's part of it. Is, you know, our systems are to listen to the patient
yep.
before we start spouting recommendations. And we have a structure with the SWOT. You know, this goes right back to boot camp, still using it.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. That's a big part of building the recipe for building trust with that patient You know, you had those building blocks of trust that you talked about, Ted, that were really awesome. Understanding DISC, the personality styles, and
Yeah.
not, you know, one thing is not making a patient wrong just because you don't like their personality. Be
Yeah.
surprised how many people do that.
Yeah.
Or making a team member wrong because we don't like their personality. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
You know,
Cedar came out with something pretty cool. They put an article out, I believe it was just today, about this market, and I'd like to share my screen about that. So this is Cedar Solutions. If you don't know, they're a HR company. And this is the title. I sent this to you, Ted. We were having this conversation this morning. Make an offer. It should be an offer, and make it quickly. How about that? Sometimes we've delayed on responding to people who apply for our position. It said, you know, you probably heard the old adage, fire fast, hire slow. Chances are that exact advice coming from us. Consider this a fast-paced job market. We've been rethinking that old wisdom and adopting new mantras. So right now, they're trying to speed up the process, and they're telling you to get organized. As soon as you know, reach out. And it says during the phone conversation, be sure to tell them why you chose them, ask if they want the job, give an overview of the salary and benefits. That's on the phone, not necessarily in the ad. Tell them to look at an offer letter with more details in their inbox. Establish a timeline for their decision. And it says this is not the time to lowball when it comes to making a salary offer. And remember, most job seekers expect to make 10% more when they change jobs. How about that? Right now, with healthcare related industries growing 15% across all specialties, your job seekers are bound to have offers to consider. Put your best foot forward, offer a competitive wage right out of the gate. I mean, some pretty interesting advice here. Here it said, one very important point, paying people more, offering signing bonuses or any number of added perks does not make them more qualified or a good fit. So this demand for more money is a double-edged sword. So yeah, who's offering the signing bonuses around town? It's usually the restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. So he talks about hiring package language, 3 areas of the offer letter. I mean, you got to have something in writing too. It's amazing how people have not given a job offer in writing. Your at-will employment contingency issues, probation language, which they're suggesting that you don't. I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time on this, but have them sign their job descriptions. Probation is a legal term, so it's saying not to do that. Focus on your at-will status.
oh, the ghost part, because so many people are not showing up. I had someone tell me today they were supposed to have someone start working today in Montana, and she didn't show up for her first day of work. After a working interview, like 3 interviews over like a 3-week process, she didn't show up on the first day.
We had that happen a week ago.
Wow. What is going on right now?
It's all over the place. I'm hearing this everywhere. I mean, it's always kind of happened, but it's just really worse right now. A big concern for employers is being ghosted. 76% of hiring employers report they've been ghosted this past year.
Wow.
76%.
I'm not alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? Is this because of unemployment or something?
Well, it says sometimes they ghost because the employer takes too long to get back to them. They've moved on.
Yeah.
They've gone to somebody else. And here's one thing I've experienced is they put in several applications, and the one they really wanted called them back after they accepted,
Yeah.
and they just think nothing of it. They've already, yeah. So there you go, right there. Sometimes they ghost because they feel offers too far off from other offers. Most of the time, though, if you make a fair offer quickly, you probably won't be ghosted. Um, and given that time frame. So I like this. I hadn't gotten a response from you from our offer, so I was wondering if I should let other candidates know the position is filled or not.
And then they
So-
don't respond. Like the lady today, I was talking with the office, like she's not even responding to my text. She doesn't respond to our phone calls. We started trying to reach out to her last week and got nothing back from her. So yeah, I think this is the challenge. How do, and I know the answer to this, I think, but how do people know that your culture is so great that you're the place to work with? Like in California, we have Knott's Berry Farm and we have Disneyland, right? I guarantee you the princess wants to work at Disneyland, not Knott's Berry Farm. Okay. So they have a reputation, right? So the reputation needs to be out there that you're a great place to work. And the more people that leave because of bad culture, the more the word gets out that this is a bad place to work.
And you know where that's getting out? In these Facebook groups.
I got kicked out of a Facebook group, Paula. Like Ted. I'm like Ted. I got booted because I kept posting motivational stuff in this local Reading for Hire group just to let people, I wanted to stay in the group, just stay connected. And I got booted. I didn't even know I got blocked. I couldn't look them up anymore or anything. I got blocked.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Too
I'm so
bad.
proud of that, Ted. I'm a rebel.
Think you were advertising yourself?
Oh,
I think that's what they thought I was doing, but I
vendor.
wasn't.
You would never do that, would you?
No. I should have like a billboard right now slide across the screen though. That would be pretty good.
But that's exactly what they do is they go into these groups. They have hygiene groups, they have assisting groups, or just different kinds of groups, and they talk about what do you know about this practice. So you want to get your team in those groups and talk about what a fun practice you are.
Or they're still going out to the bars with their former employees that they used to work with, right? Or in Alaska, Jen, they're still going fishing, right? They're still going fishing with their former employees that they worked with. So, Jen, you've worked in the same practice, but for two doctors. Would you be comfortable talking about culture and how it's changed and how it's attractive and what was attractive, not attractive? You don't have to name names or anything, but what do you see when it comes to creating culture within a practice?
Yeah, the one thing I see when it comes to creating culture, it always came, the foundation always started with the doctor. He's the one that always created that foundation. He created a lot of value for the team as far as the training goes, the boot camp, the SWAT. We would take every week, we have a 2-hour meeting, and he would really value those meetings and let the team know these meetings are important. If you can't make it, please call in, phone in, we'll record it, we'll do whatever we need to do. So a lot of that came from, like I said, the doctor. And everybody loved boot camp. We loved working with Eric. So it was naturally everybody just bought in, and it was always patient team self as far as the team goes. So I always think it starts from the top down, and that just creates a trickle effect. And as far as our interviews go, when we would hire somebody, everybody would know right away that first day, talking to the doctor, talking to me, setting the tone for the culture, and knowing that they would just feel a completely different vibe at our office compared to the other offices they would go to interview. And I think a lot of dentists, they want to do things, and they want their team to do the whole boot camp thing, and they want to be able to take care of patients on a high-end level. They just don't know where to start, and they don't realize that you create your own culture. So just having at least 2 team members, one assistant, 1 hygienist, 1 admin, and getting a core group together helps create that culture within the office.
That's a good point. Yeah. You got to have people on the side of the culture you want to have in your practice. And Paul and I say it all the time. There's one surefire way to keep losing good employees. Keep that bad employee that people get tired of working with. They can be as skilled as you want them to be, but if their culture mojo is poor, it's going to turn some people off.
What do we call that, Eric? The leaky life preserver?
You're just slowly drowning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
I have a client I just got off Zoom with, and he's got a negative Nancy, Debbie Downer, at the front. And the bad news is he's in a small town, and he's worried that if he lets her go, that she's going to, make it bad. She came from another office, 25 years experience, came from another office and brought a bunch of patients with her. And he's worried that if he lets her go, the same sort of thing is going to happen when he dismisses her. But yet she was on vacation for a week and everything was so nice. That's when right?
That's exactly right.
It was so good without you. Why'd you come back? So Paula, how do you just, So my question for you, Paula, is how do you dismiss someone? And maybe we'll talk about this Friday and the next Friday that we have our 2-day course, but how do you dismiss someone so that they don't wreak havoc on your place of business after you let them go?
Well, one thing, Eric, that's a really tough question. And why are you asking me? But
because I don't want to throw the answer.
You could do like one doctor did, and I won't mention his name. He's not on the call tonight, but
okay.
I'm on my way to his office, and he said he's messaging me while I'm in the car. Oh, by the way, we're going to fire Barbara.
So and so.
When you get here, and I'm like, oh no. Don't fire with the consultant in the room. That gives us a bad rap, right? But he handled it really well. He really did. And I think part of the deal with the bad PR is that they weren't expecting it. And this goes to performance reviews.
Yeah, it's not a surprise then, right?
Yes. If we've had our reviews, we've had, our one-on-ones with them, that is not a performance review. If we have the formal review, and then if we have a situation come up, we have the 5-step conversation or crucial conversation review. We're having those meetings when we need to be having them, and we're writing that up. We're documenting that. Now there can be an informal write-up that's in their record, but then you've got your formal write-up, if you want to call it, or counseling session. And they always know what the next step is going to be. Okay, then if this doesn't improve, then what? And then you have the next meeting, and we're going with the consequences of what we said the last time. So where are we in the consequences? I just think regular conversations, don't let things slide, be like Barney Fife and nip it in the bud. And and document everything. Always let them know what the next step is. And then when you get to the place where you're going to let them go, it's not a shock. That's what really causes the bad PR, is when we surprise somebody by letting them go. Well, we've been sitting on it for a long time,
Yeah. No, it's like my dad when I was growing up. My mom would always, reprimand me. I was that kind of kid, but so I knew my boundaries. With my dad, I never knew if he was upset with me. And then all of a sudden I would do like this silly little thing, and it was like, whoa, what just happened? He would just or whatever. Not really explode. He's a very calm guy, but it was like once a year, my dad let me have it, and then I was on restriction for a weekend, but he let me off 8 hours later, but he just didn't communicate all along what the expectation was. And that goes back to what Ted was saying and what Jen was saying. You got to have regular team meetings where you're constantly, and you're not really sharing the vision directly, like you're not constantly repeating your vision.
Oh, you're fleshing it out. Yeah.
But you're constantly carrying that torch, or like Jen said, also, you're leading by example as the doctor on what the expectation should be, what the culture should be. You're constantly talking about it. If you have a team meeting once a month for an hour and you've got a large team, it's not going to be enough to maintain that level of culture, because the communication is disappearing. When culture disappears, it's because communication has disappeared. And in fact, the culture is not disappearing. It's just the culture you want is disappearing. There's still culture there. It's just not the one you want because you're not directing it. There's a picture of, it's John Maxwell, right? The 5 levels of leadership, Paula, right? The first one is the first level of leadership is just by title. And so it's got this image of all these people pushing this thing, and the boss is up on the top whipping something. And then it's got, you know, the fourth level where he's like leading them, pushing, and they're all behind him, pushing with him, the productive leader. And so you got to be in the mix with them, and you got to make sure that you're continuously communicating the expectations of what you want for your practice.
What does Maxwell say? Clear, continual, and creative. Clear, continual, and creative. I want to share another idea that helps stop the bad PR, like this person in town, small town, that kind of thing. This was a tactic that I've recommended a couple of times, and I've seen it used. So you offer a severance package, okay? Now here's one example. It was kind of a large severance package for this person because they've been there a long time, or whatever. And I'm not saying you have to make it a large one, but there were stipulations. I'm going to give you.
Don't comment about me on Facebook.
That's it. You get this money. Here's your initial installment of your severance package, and I will continue to give you the rest of this as long as I do not hear of or see any negative comments about my team or my practice.
And sign a resignation letter right now.
Yes, with a release.
Yep.
There has to be a release in that resignation letter.
So that's easy for us to say, Ted, we're not writing the checks. What do you think about that?
You mean about paying blackmail to somebody not to pursue on Facebook?
I don't know. Are you saying that's blackmail? Is it not legal?
I don't know.
Consult with your attorney. Disclaimer, consult with your attorney before you do that.
I've never done that. I've never done that. I have talked to people about, I expect them to honor the integrity and, the confidentiality of the practice. And sometimes it goes along with a letter of recommendation,
Yep.
Usually people need a reference from their former employer
versus being fired.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking of in relation to this is, back to culture, one of the things that causes loss of the culture you want is keeping an employee that should be fired. That's deadly.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the leaky life.
And a lot of times, and I know this is me, and you think that firing them for whatever reason is going to be a lot worse than it turns out to be. Usually it's everybody goes, I was wondering when you were going to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Finally. Yeah. And everybody's happy.
That's
right.
Addition
by subtraction.
Yeah. I don't remember firing anybody ever where the team said, well, gee, we didn't want to lose that person.
Why'd you do that? Yeah, I really love their negative attitude.
Yeah.
It's always amazing to me how the team will step up. Now, this won't be long-term, but they'll step up and make up that gap when you're shorthanded, when you take care of it. One thing I say to doctors is, do you want your team to like you or respect you?
Can I have both?
Yes, you can have both. But you know what? You can have like without respect.
That's right. That's exactly right. You can have both, but you can't be in a position where they don't respect you and just like you.
That's right. So, that's maybe some approval addiction that kind of kicks in there. But I know team members who like their doctor, but they don't respect them. So that's a big challenge. Okay. Anybody else have anything you want to contribute on this subject? Ted, thank you for joining us. You're such a great mentor.
I do have one more thing, Paula. I will say this, because I manage so many Facebook accounts.
Yeah.
The offices that have the most interaction with their patients, Ted just had a post they did, somebody semi-retired. I don't know, Ted, she was like kind of retiring.
Yeah, Cindy. Yeah.
Cindy, yeah. So the comments underneath that from patients telling her to enjoy, right?
Yeah.
They're so impressive. And so what that means to me, managing these Facebook accounts is recognizing that I also manage offices where, for lack of a better term, it's like a library. Nobody's laughing, nobody's getting to know each other on a personal level.
Yeah.
So how could they appreciate it if somebody retires, right?
Mm.
And so I think that Facebook, we've said this before, Paula, I think the Facebook interaction is on those personal posts is a reflection of the health of your culture.
Yep.
Now, if you're doing posts that are just before and after pictures and just other people reviews, and you're not doing any of the personal stuff in between there, then you're not going to know what level of engagement you can get from your patients. And the only way to get the engagement is if you ask your patients to follow you. Why would they want to follow you if they don't even like you? You're just their dental office. And then the respect you part comes next. So the reflection of social media, I think, plays a role in this and the interaction level.
Yeah. That's a big part of expressing your culture is what you put on your social media page. I think that's really good.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, we ready for topic 2?
Yeah. Continuing to discuss and how to attract and keep uninsured patients. Yep. Oh, and Ted, you're going to love this one too, and we'd love to hear what you guys are doing. Anybody want to chime in, unmute and chime in and tell us what you're doing to attract uninsured patients? Anybody have some ideas you want to share? Ted?
I don't know.
I don't know. Of course you know. You're the master at attracting uninsured patients, Ted.
Well, I don't feel like we're the masters of attracting them other than we welcome them,
Yeah,
and we value them now more than anybody with, I don't care what their insurance is.
Yeah.
I'd rather have an uninsured patient. And,
yes.
So yeah, we advertise it. Maybe we're attracting them. I feel like though that the main thing is that when they get to us, that we give them something that makes them stay, that makes them want to stay.
It's different than what they would be at with an insured practice, right?
Yeah. People are conditioned to having something that they pay a little bit every month called dental insurance. And so if we give them something that feels like that without all the crap that goes with it, the restrictions and the forms and filing and denials and fee cuts and all that stuff, and they find out, I think the biggest thing is that the people that if you're looking for big cases, I think that's where it's been a grand slam, because insurance is useless on a big, $25,000 case. Insurance isn't going to help at all. And when you tell them that there's no upper limit on how far they can go with Advantage in terms of getting fee reductions, they're in. And you give them the normal fee and you give them the reduced fee if they're a member. And it's almost 100% that we'll do it that way. And if they don't, we just don't understand why not. So
well, let's talk about the purpose of why do we want to attract uninsured patients. Well, there's a couple things. A lot of patients feel like they can't go to the dentist if they don't have insurance, right? And then we know 50% of the population doesn't go to the dentist. That number has really not changed a whole lot over the years. Isn't that right? So here's the thing. Let me share a screen with you, and we all need to know what percent of our population in our practice has insurance.
And before you jump in this and share numbers, I just want to see if my knowledge is accurate here, Paula. In 2016, it was a tipping point where in the United States, it officially became the majority of people in 2016 did not have dental insurance than did. That was the tipping point.
I believe you. That's right. It's always hovered around 50% of the population doesn't go to the dentist, and about 50, there was around 60% of the population had insurance. But you know, there is a company that did a study and they said 50% of their subscribers do not go to the dentist.
That's how they make their money.
Yeah,
Of course.
that's how they make their
So
money.
it's not always that people don't have insurance. In fact, there was a survey done of why don't you go to the dentist? And you know what the number one answer was? It wasn't no insurance. It was perceived need. They didn't think they needed to go.
I thought you were going to say their office culture sucked.
Yeah, well, they went to a bad office and decided never to go back.
They're not going back.
But look at this. Now this has no name on it. Hopefully that you can see anywhere. But you've got percent of patients with insurance. And now I had it up here a minute ago, and now it's not giving it to me. Look down here, right here. So this particular practice, 73% of the patients have insurance. 26% do not.
And that's typical of what we see in an average practice. We see about 45 to 50% Delta, about 25% other insurances, and about 25 to 30% uninsured.
Yeah. So first thing we need to do is measure. We need to know, what's our patient population like? Most people don't even know how to find this.
There's no, 9,600 patients. How many doctors are in this practice?
I think there's probably 4 or 5.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then.
4 or
Okay.
5 full-time. I'm not sure if they're all full-time. There may be like 6, 7, 8, but they're not all full-time.
Gotcha.
So the here's where the challenge is. This is where the gap is, the disconnect is, if you've got 50% of the population that doesn't go to the dentist, but 70% of your patient base has insurance, and 50% of the population doesn't have insurance, we're not really attracting very many. We're only attracting 26% of our patient base without insurance. And then how are we going to keep them? What are we going to do? So obviously, I think one of the biggest things is your membership plan, and following the principle of make it easy for them to do what you want them to do and hard for them to do what you don't want them to do. So what is, when an uninsured patient calls your office and has a conversation about the first visit, what is one of the number one friction, as Eric says, friction points of that first visit? How much does that first visit cost? What is it typically for a new patient? No insurance, going for a first visit.
So I usually hear somewhere around $200 to $250 from offices.
I hear even up to 300, over 300.
We're over 300.
Yeah.
So is that a barrier for a new patient that doesn't have insurance?
Perceived friction point.
Because what did we say earlier? Price is the number one comparison until value is perceived. Why do you have all the postcards that go out from all these different offices saying free first visit? Why do they do that? Because they know that that first visit is a sticking point for a patient to come in, especially if they don't have insurance. So how do we overcome that obstacle? Ted, what would you do?
Well, you just say, if you're interested in our membership plan, then the cost of your first visit is X. I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot less.
Yeah.
And we can share the details of that when you're here. We'll also get reduced rates and all the other dentistry we do, wherever it goes from there. I mean, it's usually not a long conversation with a new patient on that first call, but by the time they're done with their first visit, they're practically always a member.
Yep.
It just doesn't make sense for them not to.
True. So part of it is making it easy for them to come on that first visit. One thing I really like is offering them a look-see, offer them a no charge, no chair appointment where they can come in and tour your office. This isn't time with the doctor. This is a team member giving them a tour of the office. Does anybody do that? Yeah, Jen, have y'all done that? Yeah, tell us about that.
Phone calls and we do the talk to the new patient. Ours is 425 for a piano bite wing
Yeah.
from the
Yeah,
patient and the girls at the front desk, they all know that they can pull that back, that their pocket, the back card pocket that we call, and they will offer the patient to come in for a complimentary consultation. We have a new patient coordinator, so that's typically me that does everything. And the doctor, we still give them about 10 to 15 minutes to come in and meet the patient.
that's
So
good. Mm-hmm.
decide whether or not they want to do business with us and they like us. So what I do at that consultation is I find out what it is they're looking for. We fill out the blue sheet. If it's a cosmetic consult, a TMJ, we take photos. And I'll just throw in an x-ray and just let them know there's no charge. But in order for the doctor to meet you and get your answer question today, let me just give you this one complimentary x-ray of this specific area. I have everything all figured out. I've been working with him long enough to know his philosophy. So I'll plant some seeds along the way of what the care would look like, what it would take to take care of him. Doctor comes in for about 10, 15 minutes, meets the patient, and he's building rapport. And then at the end, probably the last 5 minutes, he's just like, yep, what you and Jen talked about is what I would recommend. If you like us, we have him back for an exam.
That's awesome.
Complimentary.
That's great. That's really good. I like that a lot.
Think about how much doctor time was being used or potentially wasted for that appointment, right? Jen does a great job at conversion, so she's an anomaly. But if you think about the cost and the potential lost time and the reduction of friction points and how easy we make it for people to do business with us, get them in, right?
That's right.
We're
Absolutely.
so stuck on double face bow mounted models and all this comprehensiveness has to be done. Nobody said you had to touch them. Nobody said you had to do clinical dentistry. Maybe you don't want them to be your patient, but they need to figure out if they want you to be your dentist.
That's exactly right. Woo, that's a good statement right there. I like that. So a
Can you
couple
put
of
it in quotes? Can you put in quotes for me, Paula, and send it to me? I'm going to use it as a quote. I don't remember what I said.
remember what you said. I know that happens to me all the time. So
we actually do a whole lot of free consultations, and it usually it can be 5 minutes of doctor time, because so many patients, especially implant patients, they just want to know, what is the process, what's the ballpark price, all that kind of stuff. And if they have to go through a whole exam for $400 or whatever it is to find out, they're probably not going to do it. If we just let them come in, spend a few minutes, no charge.
yep.
And that visit, that's a big benefit to us, because now we know what that patient is going to need. So we're not going to waste an hour and a half in the schedule for a whole elaborate new patient process for somebody that doesn't need it.
That's right.
We started that a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we would type the patients in terms of how much of an exam, process they're going to need. But I think it's huge for going back to attracting non-insured patients. I think that's a big one, because there's no risk, no commitment. They can just come in, get their question answered, and decide, are we the ones to work with? And at that point, we can tell them about the membership plan, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we do those daily.
Ted, I remember being in your office, and this had a big impression on me ever since. It was several years ago, and your team wanted me to meet a lady, a patient of yours that was coming in, and they said, I don't remember her name. It said, let me introduce you to Sally. I'm just gonna make that name up. She's a great patient of ours. And Sally, when you first started coming here, you were a big dental chicken, or you were really afraid. And she said Yes, the first time I came here, I just had to come in and smell the air. And that gave me that, you know what, this look-see, the consult, what, no charge, no chair, whatever you want to call it, it's great for the high fear patient or patient that's had a bad experience in another office. It's really a great way for them to come in and experience the difference before you even start talking about prices. You know? So I think that's a really good tool. A couple other things I want to mention is know your top 20%. If you're going to market to the uninsured, you need to know the profile of your top 20% patient, right? 80-20 principle. And we can talk more about that if somebody doesn't know what that is. So you get your vision of that. Who are those people? I would say, I don't know, Ted, do you think a retired person is a top 20% or not? I mean, they're typically uninsured unless they bought like AARP or something.
Yeah. I think they're very likely to be a top 20. Yeah. Especially newly retired. You know, if they're 92 years old, maybe not.
And do you know attorneys, a lot of attorneys do not have dental insurance? Yeah. And a lot of them can afford it, when you say. Some of you have used an attorney.
Well, any self-employed person.
Yes, self-employed. That's exactly right. And small businesses. In fact, that's the Advantage has a program for small businesses, right?
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, the idea is that small businesses rarely can afford a dental insurance plan. And if they do afford it, they're getting ripped off pretty much. That's what I think about dental insurance in general. And the small business program is just getting the employer to chip in for their employees for the basic plan for preventive, and they can put in a sliding amount. In other words, they can pay the whole thing or half of it or whatever their employee might pay part of it. And actually, we do think it's better to have the employee have skin in the game, because we've seen a few times where the employer paid the full amount and then the patient employee doesn't show up for the appointment because they don't see the value, you know. But anyway, that's
great. So one more point to this, section 3 is how would you create an ad to attract an uninsured patient? What would be your clickbait? Y'all know what clickbait is, right? You know, how do you get them to click on your ad? What are you going to say? What's your benefit statement to get an uninsured patient to be interested without giving away the farm, without, you know, I don't know. Doesn't have to be a special. What do you
use the phrase "no insurance, no problem"?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's my favorite.
Yeah, because there are people that think if you don't have insurance, a dentist office doesn't want you in their office.
Now, where did they learn that?
Medical insurance.
Delta, I don't know.
I mean, the medical offices. You call and ask to make an appointment. What's the first thing they ask you?
Do you have insurance?
Yeah, who's your insurance? Yeah.
So our good little dental patients have their insurance card ready when they call our office, thinking that's what we want to know.
Yeah. We've got you covered.
Yeah.
Got you covered, and then underneath that you can put no insurance, no problem. We've got you covered. I think that's a good tagline.
I like that. How about call us before you sign? I mean, we're coming up on benefit packages in a couple of months.
Yeah.
And I actually had a practice that was in a mall, and they put up one of those signs. It's like this, you know. I don't know what you call those things. Like you could be a sandwich person and wear it over
board,
yeah. And they put it in the mall and said, call us before you sign your dental insurance plan. And they got some people coming in like, you know, what is this about? And you could be losing money on your dental insurance. You know, so call us before you sign. That's another one. I think that's a pretty good way to do that analysis.
Yeah. I just did the analysis with a client in Michigan today. They're dropping Delta. We figured out that their premium was probably around $40 a month
Yep.
to get their hygiene visits covered.
Yep.
Could be a little bit more. And so if their advantage amount is less than $40, it's a win.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Typically it's around 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can do $30 a month for that part's covered. Now you go, okay, and you've got $650 left over for doctor services every year, let's say. Let's call it 600. And you've got to spend maybe 600 to get that 600,
Yep.
to get that benefit. So what's really worth it to you? Are you healthy? Are you not healthy? Where are you? I looked at just our Abby's insurance plan. Our whole family, she's having, they pay for hers, but our whole family's about $2,000 a month for medical insurance. And I looked at it, if you're self-employed, to go get the California Care, whatever it's called, it's like $350 a month. Why is it so cheap? Well, it's $7,000 deductible for up to two family members. Wow, that seems really bad. $14,000 a year. But if you look at the $2,000 premium I'm paying out of her paycheck, that's $24,000 a year.
Yes.
So it's all in how you look at it and how you add the numbers up. And sometimes you can really add the numbers up with these plans and show how an in-office membership plan is just way better mathematically for these patients. The insurance company's winning. So
Yes.
Well, the main benefit to the dental practice of the membership is patient treatment acceptance goes way up, and we're in this now for 10 years, and we have 750 members, and
Wow.
we've been keeping some numbers, and they show very clearly that the Advantage members buy 2 to 4 times as much dentistry as the insured members, who buy no more than the ones who are uninsured and have no membership. They're just, and who knows why. But my conclusion is that dental insurance causes people to get less dentistry done than they need.
Mm-hmm.
And we all see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They run out of benefits.
that's a good tagline right there, Ted.
What's that?
That was a good tagline. Dental insurance causes people to get less insurance. Less dentistry.
Less treatment than they need.
Less treatment, less care. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Well, I know our time is about up. This was a really good conversation, and I just think a lot of practices and a lot of team members don't even think about what's the dynamic of our practice, how many insured, uninsured, and it puts you at risk if you're, especially if you get most of your patients, if 30, 40, 50% of your practice is from one insurance plan, and those employers change plans and you're not on contract with them, that puts your practice at risk. Does that make sense? So it really helps. And Ted, do you know your percentage? Do you mind sharing of your percentage of uninsured?
I think it's of uninsured.
Uh-huh. I know, I'm just not going to say because it's not.
Oh, okay. Well, would you say? Because I honestly don't know.
Do I have your permission to share?
Yes, you do.
Okay. So over half, let's put it this way, over half of your practice does not have insurance.
Good place.
And I would love it if it was 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're walking your talk. That's where I'm going with that. That was not your number that I pulled up here that showed everybody. I don't want to pull up your numbers in front
And I
of me.
will also say that there's 0% PPO. We don't sign any contracts.
That's right. You're not on any contracts. So, so that also says your team does a good job of convincing a new patient to come in, even though they have insurance and you're not on contract. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the win-win right there. So I hope this is a good discussion for everybody. Anything else, Eric, that you want to bring up? I had a long list of other things to talk about too, but this was good.
No, I don't think anything that I could say within the minute that we have here. I would say, just as a subtext of insurance, a lot of these providers that I'm so shocked when I start working with a client and they signed up for Delta back in 2009, and they signed up for PPO. And they go, oh, I'm a Premier and a PPO provider. I was like, no, you're a PPO provider. And they don't even know that there was an option to just be Premier, and that option still exists for them. So if anybody's watching this or any friends you know, Dr. Haig, yes, I'm working with two, and then this is another that one in LA, one in just north of LA, where he's figured out that when you look at the plans in Delta, if it says Delta PPO TM, it means it's also a Premier plan. And so if you're in one of those categories prior to 2012, you're grandfathered in, you can actually drop PPO and just be Premier and watch your fees go up 20% on all your Delta patients. And what we're figuring out is about 5% of the plans are PPO only. So if all of your practice that was like say 50% of your practice was Delta and all of them were PPO, it wouldn't make sense for you to go Premier only because you couldn't see any of those patients, right? But what we're seeing is 50% of the practice is Delta, and of that 50%, only 5% of the plans, so 2.5% of your practice is PPO only. Why are you accepting PPO fees?
Yeah.
Just be Premier.
Yeah.
And
That's
how
a good
you figure
point.
that out is look at your plans online and see that little TM next to that PPO Delta trademark. And that'll mean they have both Premier and PPO. And you'll know, oh, look at all the plans I have that are Premier only. Why did I sign up for both? And then you send the letter, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in you're not in a great situation, but you're in a better situation than being just PPO. So,
There you go.
yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Well, thanks everybody, and especially thank you, Ted, for mentoring us tonight.
Yeah.
I thought I was just listening.
Good advice. Good advice. Good to see you all. Thanks for joining us, Jen. Eric, I hope you get to come home one day.
Someday I'll be able to leave Mexico. Yeah.
All right.
You can always just hike across